Hey everybody, it's Devin Francis, also known as Dr. Blackard.
And he made me watch the end of DuckTales. Now the show is over. The show's over. Been 2 years, but now the show's over for me. Why'd you do this to me? Now I have no more DuckTales episodes. I can never watch any more ever again.
Yeah. This is episode 230 of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What's going on in this one?
We're talking about As Far As It Depends on Me, which is the beginning of 75.
Yes.
And the next episode of 75.
Which is Two's Company, Four's a Crowd. Yes. So, episode 964, As Far As It Depends on Me, written by Abigail Geiger. Both very clunky titles, both of these episodes.
I think this one isn't that bad. The next one is, though.
Yeah, I mean, this one, I was like, I think I get the point of the title.
Oh, that's what you mean. I just thought you meant like it had too many words.
Both things.
Oh.
Yeah, what happens in this episode, Victoria?
Well, to be fair, they've written almost 1,000 episodes.
I know.
Running out of titles.
Wits Flop 2.
Wits Flop 2. More Green Ring continuity wrap-up stuff. Mm-hmm. Benjamin Trask is dead. Is he actually?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the point of the episode, is that he's dead.
Bit.
Yeah.
He's dead, and Penny killed him. His sister and his mom are cleaning out his house, and Penny is asked to be there to help appraise some of the art pieces.
And collect some things that are hers.
Yes.
I think that's mainly the reason initially.
And then it becomes more of an appraisal thing, and she's more involved. Wooten is also there for emotional support. Penny's upset, and as the episode goes...
Well, she's not upset at first.
She's not upset at first, but then she gets more upset because the sister's like, I can't believe all these things happened to you. And the mom's like, Benjamin Trask, like, you've never done anything wrong, and I love you. And then Penny gets, like, more mad, and then Wooten's like, this isn't who you are. And Penny's like, you're right. And then she helps the sister and the mom be a little less aggro towards each other. And then the episode...
Well, not really. But it's different,
or at least,
aggro.
Like, understand each other's point of views-ish. Kind of. It's been a while.
So it starts out, Penny is like, she's very zen about all of it. The sister is very level-headed. She accepts, like, my brother did all of these terrible things.
She's like, my brother was a terrible, terrible boy. Yeah,
he did all these crimes, and I'm so sorry for everything that you had to go through. And the mom is like, he was innocent, and you were his sister, you were a student, you all maligned him, and
Slander.
You lied in court, and now he died in prison because you killed my son.
You killed my crime boy.
And the mom is, like, very aggro, and the sister seems pretty level-headed, but the more she talks to Penny, the more Penny gets, like, actively madder and frustrated thinking about
like
all of it.
It's like creeping aggression.
Exactly. It rubs off on Penny in a way that kind of builds an intensity until Penny gets really mad at it, and they finally are able to, like, reconcile the real source of the differences between the mom and the sister and get them to make up about it.
Bad mom.
But then it ends up flipping around, and the mom ends up being like, you're right, he did do these things, and I'm so sorry that I've treated you poorly all of these years, and apologizes. But then the sister is the one who's like, no, I'm like, too angry, and I can't forgive you.
Dare, and she leaves. And Penny's like, I will stay to help.
Yeah, so everything kind of ends up in the opposite just as bad, sort of. I mean, there's more that has been resolved emotionally, but it's like they're just as strained as before. But now it's the mom who's trying to reconcile instead of the sister.
Are we gonna work on this more? And the episode ends, which is very points for realism.
I was not expecting Benjamin Trask moment to open this album.
I wasn't. What was my prediction? It was like a prediction that Penny was framed for doing something bad or something. Maybe. Sketch was associated with her, but she didn't do anything. Or she did something bad unknowingly because of like how the album description was like, whoa, what's going on with Penny?
It gets it. They reveal what's going on very immediately. It's very Christmas Carol, like Benjamin Trask was dead. That much was certain.
Yeah, I was like at work and I was like sitting at my desk and they were like Benjamin Trask and I was like, and then I was like, oh, he coming back? And they're like, no, he's dead. And I was like, he's dead? He died of heartbreak like any good woman does, like Padme Amidala. So.
The mother's role in the story, initially that's what I expected the sister to be, because Penny gets the phone call from Trask's sister right after he dies, and I was expecting like, oh, she's going to be so vile and pernicious towards Penny for getting her brother thrown in prison for years and years, where he would eventually die alone and poor and everything. I didn't expect his family to be split over the idea of his guilt. At first, Elizabeth seems like such a refreshingly mature person about all of it. She fully believes in the truth of his guilt, but she's not reveling in the fact that he died.
She was like, he was always bad.
Yeah, but she's not...
Always crime boy.
She was like, he did all of these things. It's not a lie. Like, he committed these crimes, but she's also like, I can't look at the house. I can't look at the things. I can't even think about it because it hurts me too much. It was like a very...
We're past.
I was gonna say like pragmatic approach where it's like, we have to deal with all of these things.
Pragmatic oppression.
She was able to come to the house and dole out effects and stuff like that without having a lot of like sentimental attachment towards like just being in that space, either one way or the other, being too sad and angry at her brother or being too like believing that he was innocent and like righteous indignation. Obviously, like you said, it was like this subtle creep where it's like, oh, she seems like the mature and level-headed one and she's right and everything, and the mom is all like crazy and in denial. But then they get you. That's where they get you.
That's where gotcha in the episode.
I was really impressed by how well Penny was holding everything together at the beginning, at least. Like, you think about how long it took her to work through the trauma of everything that happened in the Green Ring conspiracy. I was thinking about like album 54 when she was like, I need to learn all the like lie to me micro expression like body language signals so that no one can ever lie to me again. I will never let myself feel things again so I can't get hurt.
Why are you so suspicious?
Yeah, she was so paranoid after all of that for very good reason. But that's why at the beginning of this episode, she was able to handle things so level-headedly. It made me really impressed at like how far she's come since then.
And it's also been years, which helps. And she has, like, more of an emotional support system than she did out of Green Ring. Because in Green Ring and around that time, it's like, oh, who's my support system? Trask. This green girl I met a couple days ago. Yeah. Who I want to do, like, crime possibly with. That's it.
So... the day ends, they end up going home. Penny kind of has these old feelings that had settled and resolved, but Elizabeth has got them like all kicked up and stirring again inside of her.
She knocked him out of her like that one guy at the end of the Barry finale that somehow from one bullet was just...
it's like swimming over like silt and sand, where she like kicked her feet over just above the bottom, and then everything started getting like kicked up and cloudy and unsettled. And she starts snapping at Wooten and gets into an argument with him over the fact that Wooten is worried about how agitated she's starting to get, thinking about things that she had already dealt with. I really like how Wooten points out that Penny is perfectly allowed to feel hurt and angry, but it's important to note that she wasn't feeling that way when the day began, and that her feelings were exacerbated by Elizabeth just as much as they were by the things that they found, because the thing that really, like, kickstart, it's not just being around them, it's in his studio, they find that, like, he'd been taking students' artwork and repainting his signature over them and selling them.
Which, that sucks. Don't do that.
Don't do that. We learned that last season.
I was gonna say,
don't
like,
plagiarize.
That's not even the worst thing he's done by quite a wide margin.
No.
So.
But no, they find out that, you know, Penny is really hurt, finding out that a lot of her own works were there with Trask's signature at them, and the mother doesn't even believe that, you know, that they really are Penny's, because they're like, those have my boy's name on them. How dare you? You're just trying to steal his talent by claiming that you could paint as good as he did when he made these. And it seems like there were proportionally, like, more of Penny's paintings there than anyone else's that Trask had stolen and tried to pass off as his own work. So she was, you know, very hurt about that. But Wooten makes a good point. Like, you're having very valid feelings about this, but you need to be aware of what's causing those feelings, because it's very reasonable that you feel angry and upset about this, but what is the source of those feelings? Because you didn't feel those at the start of the day, and some of those feelings are coming from what you found out, but some of them are just feeling from being around Elizabeth, and the way that she's talking about everything is kind of stirring up all these feelings, and there's a lot of, like, emotional mimicry going on. You know, you're reflecting a lot of her feelings from the way that she's talking about it, and it's causing you to get more riled up about it, and is causing unrest in, like, you.
They
and
talk
now,
about this in the episode, but, like, the people you spend time with affect you.
And the fact that it's easy to direct that anger onto people who aren't the target of your anger, because now Penny is arguing with Wooten. She's not mad at Wooten. She's mad at Trask, which is where they then turn to realizing that that Elizabeth and Mrs. Trask have spent all these years fighting with each other, but they're not mad at each other. They're mad at Ben. So they need to figure out, like, are you just mad at him and your anger at each other is a byproduct of that? Because if so, you need to work through that, because you don't have a feud with each other. You need to mend this relationship. If you are mad at each other, then stop hiding behind the guise of this being about Trask and his alleged crimes, and, you know, confront what the actual emotional issues are between the two of you. So Wooten compares things to his adulthood pre-Odyssey, mentions Wellington, which is why Victoria wanted to record so much.
Okay, so Wellington was mentioned, and I was like, did I audio, like, delusion that, and then I rewound, and no, they did say his name, so thank you, Abigail. And I almost immediately texted you to be like, we gotta record, and then I was like, no, if I do, he'll be suspicious. He'll be like, what happened? And there might be a part of him that's like, Wellington was mentioned, wasn't he?
When you say that we have to record, I'll be honest, because this comes up all the time, that's never my first thought.
That's, whenever you say, like, you have to listen to this episode, my first thought is always Wellington. So maybe it's just me.
When I'm also telling you have to listen to something, it's also, I don't think, ever because of Wellington.
Why not?
Because in my mind, the chances that Wellington is going to get mentioned is so low. Probably in my head, the chances are lower than they actually are in reality. And so I don't even consider it a factor because it's such a rarity.
I think maybe my problem is I'm just always thinking about Wellington.
That is your problem, yes.
I've already mentioned him once today.
Yeah.
Outside of recording. You know what, Devin?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's a problem, actually.
Yeah, I thought you would say that.
I think it's a wonderful personality trait of mine.
I liked how the story that Wooten gave about his past shows how forcing yourself to forgive someone before you're ready to actually do that, which is always going to mean that you say that you've forgiven them and maybe you believe you have, but when you're still holding on to it, it's not going to be healthy for you emotionally.
I straight up don't remember the story Wooten told about having Wellington. I think
it was about him and his dad.
Okay. Did he just mention Wellington then?
I believe so.
Okay, and just said nothing about... I'm okay with that. Even just mentioned him. My sweet boy.
But yeah, I like that. I mean, this is something we've touched on before in the show, primarily with Tom, and that's my favorite character trait of Tom Riley.
The fact that he held grudges for a really long time.
The fact that he has issues, that he really has to genuinely struggle with being able to fully forgive someone for like something that really, really hurt him. And he knows that he needs to, but he also understands that you can't
it's usually just say, not just hurt him, but hurt him, his animals, his property, those around him.
He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to say that he's forgiven someone when that isn't true, because he knows that that is, it might make the other person feel better, but it's meaningless. And if you, like I was saying, like Wooten's story said, if you go around feeling like, oh yeah, I've forgiven them, I'm putting it out of my conscious mind, but you're still holding on to that burden, and you're not going to come back to revisit and unload that burden because you're like, oh, I forgave them, while all of those like feelings are like, no, it's fine, I'm not feeling like that, are going to continue to build and well inside of you.
Well,
yes.
Well.
So it is, I've always admired that about, Tom in Homecoming and in Darkness Before Dawn, in the later episodes.
Was there another character that he had issues with? Like
sort of, but it wasn't
Edwin?
that.
I don't
the only other thing
really
where they kind of baited us with that is Timmy's Cabin. I mean, Timmy's Cabin is in the episode. That's the one with Johnny Appleseed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one in Elm 18, Greater Love, where you think that he isn't gonna have forgiven like JD, is that his name? But then Tom reveals, no, it's not you that I haven't forgiven. I haven't been able to forgive myself. So yes, sorry, that is, once I got to the end of the sentence, yes, that is the other third example. Even if forgiving himself, he knows that he needs to be forgiving, but he will not let himself like go through the motions until he means it genuinely and knows that he is actually forgiving someone.
Why was he so mad at JD again, or something to do with Timmy?
Well, because Timmy died, but he blamed himself.
Right, they were together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he didn't blame JD. He blamed himself for Timmy's death.
Yes.
And hadn't forgiven himself all those years.
I forgot what JD's deal was for a second.
So
that's one of those characters. It's like, oh, it's too bad you're only in the one episode.
So, yeah, I love that so much about Tom. It's absolutely my favorite character trait of his, and so I'm really glad that Wooten gave, another story example here to reiterate this idea of forgiving someone when you're not actually it's not actually in your heart to forgive them. You're not actually doing it emotionally or spiritually. You're just telling them that because they'll feel better, or because you're like, oh, I have to forgive them because
obligation. Yeah,
because I'm a Christian, and that means I have to forgive everyone. And so I'm saying, yes, I forgive you, even though in my heart I haven't actually like processed and dealt with this. It doesn't do any good and may actively be bad emotionally, psychologically.
Like the reason why it's so good with Tom is he's the only one really like that who's like a main character and like really strongly has that trait.
Although we've kind of seen it in Wit before as well.
Yeah, but with Tom, it's like this was like album spanning, like deeply developed. With Wit, it's like, oh, we were fighting, and you find out about it retroactively, and then it's resolved in the same episode, more or less.
So, I also liked the unresolved ending of the episode, the way that things flipped around on the family. Vera and Elizabeth, they were both living in these deeply toxic places, and even though it seemed that Vera was far worse due to the fact that she was incorrectly believing about what happened with Trask, ultimately it was Elizabeth who was the one unable to process her hurt and direct it in the appropriate place. And I really liked how Wooten worded things when they were home in the middle of the episode about not letting the sun go down on your anger, saying that he didn't, like, obviously that phrase comes directly from the Bible, and it is a very excellent and still ever pertinent today piece of wisdom, like, regardless of your faith otherwise, like, resolving, trying to, take some time to cool down on things, but don't let it continue to prolong for too long. Before you go to sleep, go and try to resolve things before you really, let them set into your brain and become something that you don't go back and deal with. He said, I don't want to continue this fight. I don't want to talk more about this right now, but we do need to continue this fight because we need to push through it to get to the other side. Neither one of them wanted to think about it anymore, but they are going to keep thinking of it regardless of whether or not they talk about it, which is absolutely true. So if we're going to be thinking about it anyways, better to do it out loud so we can actually hit a breakthrough, have resolution, and then we can go to sleep in peace instead of letting emotions fester and resentment grow. And I assume the idea with the title, as far as it depends on me, is about, I can't change the way that you feel about something. All I can do is, change the way that I react to it. So I can't, with Elizabeth, Penny can't make her feel better about things, but at least as far as it depends on her, she can do her part to deal with her own emotions, and then it's up to Elizabeth to do the rest, how she responds to that. That's how I interpreted the title.
Makes sense. I feel like there's another interpretation, but I can't figure it out right now that could work. I'm trying not to sneeze.
It's okay. I'll allow it.
I would do it even if you didn't.
So, what's your rating for this episode, Victoria? Do you remember so well? Did I also remember so well? I listened to it much more recently than you.
I'd say 4. I think it was really good. I think I need to listen to it again to come to more conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
I like how it resolved, or at least revisited some more Green Ring stuff. It's always nice to have after a big spanning arc is done to check in on plot elements.
And it's been, I want to say, ignoring anything related to Buck and Skint, all those things aside, I don't think it's been since the Labyrinth that we've otherwise talked about the Green Ring, have we?
I don't know.
It's been somewhere in that vicinity, I think, either way.
It's
ignoring all of the Buck stuff, because he was kind of the main takeaway, literally, from that arc.
We took him and we said he's ours now.
Yeah. We didn't steal Buck. He's his own boy.
I want to steal. You guys are bonkers.
I like that it followed up on this. I like it's kind of like a villain bait and switch. Obviously, it's not Elizabeth was the true villain of this episode.
No, it's all moral quandaries.
Yeah, but there is certainly
grayness.
We come in and we see Elizabeth and Vera, and it's clearly okay, Elizabeth is on our side with things, and Vera is being antagonistic towards us. And it seems like Elizabeth is going to be the one who is going to back us up, help us out. She's going to agree with us. She's going to fill us in on the backstory that we need to try and, help Vera get over her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to realize, the way you described it as a slow creep is the the most accurate, because as you're going through, you're like, Elizabeth is like being a little bit harsher and a little bit harsher, and you can start to see how Penny is kind of like being like, yeah, I should be more mad about things like that, and it's like feeding on all of these emotions that are getting kicked back up, or the new information being learned about the fact that he was stealing.
I'm really glad that Wooten was with her in this episode, and she wasn't like left alone for like long amounts of time, and that he was like consistently like emotionally supporting her. Otherwise, it could have been so much worse for Penny.
Yeah, I mean, even if he wasn't there in person, if he was there at the end of the day, he is going to have no idea how to like address what's going on with her if he didn't have all of that knowledge, because his presence as an impartial third party there in order to like observe the changes in Penny is really important, because she doesn't have that perspective to see like how much over the course of a single day the way that she was talking and feeling about things was being warped further and further.
Yeah, it's like what we talked about with, it should be out by now, the OAC episode that we just reviewed, like the Sinai one, where it's like, oh, I'm seeing from like a outside view these things in quick succession, like how they affected you, even if you're not completely aware of it, and then Wooten's in the same place, where it's like, yeah, this is how it's been affecting you throughout the past couple days, and I know that you're not like this, so I want to point these out so you can just like reflect on them and decide what you want to do.
Very true. Okay, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. It was good. I really liked that we were able to see, we started with this episode, the first third of it, we're really seeing like how much emotional growth and healing Penny has gone through since the initial aftermath of the GRC, in terms of the trauma. Like, and then, it obviously, as people say, recovery is not a linear process.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
And so I like that we see, like, this is how far she's come, and then we see how she kind of goes through a relapse in this, in terms of, like, emotional stability about these things. But then, because she's put in all of the work that she has, and with people around to support her like Wooten and help to remind her of these things, she is able to work through that relapse and get back to where she was. Good stuff. You know what? I'll change that. I'm going to make that a 4.8.
And I also think you can see the difference between, like, Penny and Wooten, and, like, emotionally depending on each other versus Vera and Elizabeth, and how, like, no support's being given between the two of them. So it's a nice contrast.
Yeah. Support and just communication. It's tough stuff, Obviously, for Vera, I know that Trask was a bad guy, but I still feel for her, because I imagine, if you genuinely did believe that he was innocent, which she was like, I was being willingly in denial about it, but if you did believe he was innocent, then the idea of like, yeah, my son was wrongfully accused, and then he went to prison where he died, and all of his students and his friends and even his sister talk about how he was like this terrible criminal and he deserved to be there. Like, yeah,
and now people are claiming credit for things that
for his work and stuff like that. Like, yeah, obviously you would feel completely alone and attacked by everyone, betrayed, and
especially if it's your kid.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
you're like, oh, that's my guy. That's my crime boy.
It's rough stuff. So that is our album premiere. Now let's talk about Two's a Company, Four's a Crowd. All right, now this is a long gap between filming, but here we go now. Episode 965, Two's a Company, Four's a Crowd, written by Abigail Geiger. What happens, Victoria, in this episode?
So in this episode, Emily is meeting up with Whit. And talking to him, which she hasn't really been doing a bunch, which she reveals is because she's still kind of mad at Whit.
Shocker.
Which honestly, I really liked that because I didn't expect that. I don't know about you. I felt so validated.
I've listened to this episode twice. It makes me
I listened to this episode twice also.
It makes me so happy that Emily tells Whit what for, like, really emphatically, and expresses it succinctly. Oh, so good.
It was really good. It's not that, like, I think I can speak for both of us. It's not that we hate Whit or anything like that, because I think some people thought that we just hate Whit now. We don't hate Whit. We don't dislike Whit. It's just he did something very uncool. And
he did something absolutely horrendous.
And it felt like, kind of, because so much time had passed, and because he and Emily kind of still interacted, that was just, like, swept under the rug, and we weren't going to talk about it.
The show's like, Whit's not perfect, and then they let him be perfect, except they're like, we gave him one little flaw that rarely comes up. And then lately they've just had him doing more and more, like, out-of-pocket, deeply unethical things, and never really, like, chastising him for it ever. And so I just, when it happened, I assumed they were fully going to let him get away with it and be like, well, Whit did it, so it must be the right thing to do. And then time passed, and it kept on not coming up very much. And so we're like, they're just going to let him get away with this scot-free.
Yeah, and so, like, Emily saying, like, hey, you really hurt me, and him apologizing was extremely good. I loved that. Thank you, Abigail Geiger. So that is one element of this episode. Basically, Emily comes in because she wants to talk to Whit about Suzu. There is this case that Suzu was asked to work on by a couple of, or I guess one popular girl in the school. So Suzu goes, she asks Emily to come along with her because she's, like, kind of intimidated and nervous to be around, like, a really popular girl, doesn't really know how to act. Goes to the girl's house. The girl asks them to take off their shoes when they are walking around.
Like a sane person.
Which, like, I know it's an American thing. I'm honestly kind of surprised. I know that Suzu and Mori have spent a lot of time in the US, but I'm also kind of surprised that, like, they would get in the habit of wearing their shoes on the carpet.
Well, I don't know if she did. She probably has the habit of taking them off.
Yeah.
I imagine. And when she's asked to, she was like, yeah, of course. Like, a completely normal and reasonable thing to do is what Suzu says. And it's like, yeah, she's Japanese. She's like, yeah.
Yeah, anyone who is watching and does not know, it is common practice in Japan to take off your shoes and put on indoor slippers as soon as you enter.
Yeah, well, the slippers are specifically Japanese.
The house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, I was like, yeah, girl, why you be wearing shoes? Like, the idea of wearing your shoes outside and then walking around on a carpet. And it's like, you're going to wreck that carpet, babe. What are you doing?
There's, obviously there's the rare occasions where it's like, I'm outside and I just need to, like, quickly grab something close to the door.
That is an exception.
Yeah, but it's always like, oh, I'm sorry. I say to myself, I'm sorry.
And that also comes with kind of, like, you usually, when you do that, if someone is watching you, and especially if it's not your house, then you would ask permission first.
Well, yes, if you didn't live
And
there.
you would also, like, if it is your house even, you'll probably know that you have to clean up any dirt you left behind, like, immediately after you finish doing whatever you're doing outside.
If I have to run inside and it's, like, wet outside whatsoever, if there's any dampness on my shoes and I need to grab something inside without taking out my shoes, I will just walk on my knees to grab it and then back to the door.
When I was at your place a couple weeks ago, because my shoes are extremely hard to put on, and it takes me, like, a solid minute to put both my shoes on. I had to grab something, I think, that was on your table before the concert.
Yeah, probably.
Before the show. And so then I basically parkoured myself across the floor, jumping from, like, pad to pad of, like...
Because the mat by the kid.
Yeah.
The fridge, yeah.
Jumping from, like, the mat by the
like
front door
any
to
polite
the mat
person,
in the kitchen,
yes.
And, like, trying to grab it so I wouldn't, like, get any, like, grime on the new carpets at your place, because that would suck. Yeah, so anyway, that's a very Canadian tangent, and by that I mean not American tangent.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
I'm sure there's other places in the world where people wear their shoes indoors a lot of the time.
Yeah, but like, I don't know why.
It's a very American thing, yeah.
Like, specifically Elf. It's always bothered me in Elf. The dad, like, there's that scene where, like, he goes into his bedroom and then the wife follows him and then they talk about Buddy. Mm-hmm. And he, like lays down on his bed and he still has his shoes on. And every time I see it, I, like, yell. Because I'm like, take your shoes off.
It's like...
I'm like, okay, if you're going to wear it on the floor, wear it on the floor. You're on your bed now. Take your shoes off.
It's like, I know, see, things of, like, Americans where it's like their shoes are, like, off and placed by the foot of their beds. They, like, put their shoes on when they get up, and it's like, that's all. It makes me...
And, like, also, sometimes you just want to take your shoes off because you, like, your feet can breathe. I don't know why you would want to wear them longer than necessary.
It's like, it's in Final Fantasy VII Remake, but especially in Rebirth, anytime there's a scene where, like, characters are going to sleep, and I understand, like, it's mostly...
Oh, yeah, and they still have their shoes
animation
on
and outfits thing, but the fact that whenever you see Cloud sleep, which is numerous times, he, like, lays down flat on his back, fully clothed on top of the covers and pillow, just like...
Did you hear that lightning?
No.
Thunder?
No, he'll just, like, fully clothed on top of all the covers and just, like, lay down, and then he'll, like, get up and just, like, sit up. And I'm like, I get they don't want to animate all the covers moving.
In Cloud's defense... Okay, that's something that always bothers me in video games, like characters lying down on top of the beds, no blankets.
Aren't you cold,
especially
boy?
Roxas, who it doesn't look like Roxas even has really any blankets. It's like Diz is like, I'm not programming any comfort for that lower life form. I hate Diz. But I mean, I say that Ven, Sora also don't have any blankets.
I understand they're like, we don't want to design pajamas and...
It's warmer weather on the island, so, like, I can excuse, like, having short sleeves and not having a blanket on. But, like, wouldn't you get cold, like, in Land of Departure or Twilight Town? Mm-hmm. I imagine those to be colder worlds, especially Land of Departure.
At least with Cloud, I chalk it up to, like, being ready to, like,
that's
stand
what
up,
I was
grab
going to say. With Cloud,
like,
I totally get the idea. Because
that is how he wakes up most of the time.
Of, like, someone like Cloud who is, like, very high functioning. Not high functioning. The opposite. Wait, high functioning means it's bad, doesn't it?
No, high functioning means you're able to, like get through society well.
What's the opposite
low
of
functioning?
High functioning? Is it? Okay. Very low functioning anxiety. Like, debilitating anxiety. I get the idea of him, like, wanting to always have his shoes on. So, like, at seconds, like, anything bad happening, and he's a light sleeper, he can just, like, rush out and just, like, go right into it. He doesn't have to worry about, like, getting ready for, like, anything bad happening.
Otherwise you have to use an umbrella on the beach to fight monsters.
Yeah, no one else has an excuse, though.
Okay. So
anyway, that's our really long tangent about shoes.
It's okay. It was Chekhov's shoes.
It was important.
You needed to supplant all of the clues for the mystery.
Yes, it was necessary. So they go up to this girl's room right after she offers them homemade cookies that she made special for them. They're store-bought cookies, and they weren't even that good. Emily informs Wit. The thunder is so loud, oh my goodness.
I can't hear it.
I can. And so, this episode had a lot of Mean Girls energy. I just started watching cutscenes from the class of '09. I recommend most people do not watch anything from that game, just because you will probably be very uncomfortable, but that's kind of the purpose.
Anyways.
This episode had really big class of '09 energy in some ways that the girls talk to each other. So they go to, I don't remember the girl's room, what her name is.
Carrie, yeah.
Yeah, they go to Carrie's room, and
Nicole
she's
is the
like,
friend.
I lost this math award. It was stolen from me by this famous math man who isn't Eugene.
Well, it was signed, not stolen, by the famous math man.
Yeah, it was stolen, and it was signed by him. I mean, we don't know who stole it. She's trying to figure it out.
It could have been the famous math man. He's like, that's mine. My name's on it.
I forgot how to write my signature. I need to borrow yours so I can
for reference.
consult So it's been stolen. She wants Suzu and Emily to figure out where it is. So they start trying to figure it out, and the girl's like, wow, this is so cool that you're doing all this, like, detective stuff. It's so crazy. Ah. And,
well, her friend especially, Nicole, is very,
yeah, her
like,
friend
detective
comes in, and she's like, I'm also here. Maybe it's the fact that the main character in Class of '09 is named Nicole also doesn't help.
That probably is, you know.
Yeah. So they're both like, whoa, detective work. Whoa. And so Suzu and Emily are kind of trying to figure things out. Suzu talks to Emily kind of in private for a minute, and Suzu's like, hey, it's really important to me that I make friends with these guys, because even though they're kind of sketch, like, I don't have any friends, and I really want friends. And I think, like, if you're just gonna ruin things for me, you should leave. And Emily's like, fine, I will leave. And then she starts going, and she realizes as she's leaving that, like, Carrie didn't have her phone on her and had to ask to borrow Nicole's phone, and Carrie always has her phone on her. Oh, Nicole always has her phone on her?
Yeah, Nicole needed to use Carrie's phone because she didn't have her.
Carrie's the one who lost the thing, right? Okay. Well, either way, one of their phones is missing.
Yeah.
And Emily's like, that's weird. Where's their phone? And then pulls up their FaceSpace account and realizes that they are live streaming everything that's been happening, and that they're trying to, like, trap Suzu into looking like a criminal. Because, I guess I should say, while Suzu was going off to investigate, like, a couple minutes earlier, and Emily was just talking to the two of them, they're like, it's so cool that, like, you're a detective and you have, like, a little criminal sidekick who helps you, like, solve cases. And they're, like, so dehumanizing in the way they talk about Suzu.
It is interesting
really
that for the live stream, it's not like, she's not doing the angle of, like, we're pranking Suzu into making her seem like a criminal. Like, it seems like she was trying to convince her followers that Suzu was actually the criminal.
Oh, she definitely was.
But it's weird because she's like, I'm filming and I'm secretly live streaming all this in advance. And now what? Suzu was the person, and trying to make it seem like she didn't set Suzu up to the people to whom she was secretly live streaming.
It does feel like some videos that would, like, viral, weird YouTube channels would make, though.
It's like, hey girl, why were you secretly filming it if you didn't think that Suzu was going to be the criminal?
I could definitely see this being a thing. I've seen, like, enough, like, Drew Gooden and Danny Gonzalez videos to, like, know that YouTube channel videos like this exist.
It is one of those, like, fake family YouTube, like, setup.
Exactly.
It's like
it's the one girl.
Yeah, it's the one where she's like, you know, my dad and I didn't really have a spontaneous crazy string fight. What, really?
Yeah, there was a second where, like, listening to the episode, I was like, no, that's not that girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad. Like, it would have made kind of sense if it was, but it also would have felt like character.
Carrie's like, don't worry about over there. That's my gamer dad. That's my cringe gamer dad.
Remember how Polehouse is a gamer? I like to think about that sometimes. He definitely has.
That was the last AIOC episode we talked about.
What?
That actually, I think that would have been the episode that comes out before this one.
Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
And to make things worse, I just made the same joke, I'm pretty sure, and now all of China will know.
That we did 6 months in between. I mean, we've recorded since then. It's just comes out before the Eugene episodes. So
yeah. We've been filming.
You listened to that while you were fighting Marluxia. That's how long it's been.
But we haven't been able to put them out yet.
You're fighting Marluxia when you listen to that episode. That's how long it's been.
Marluxia? Like in Reap?
Yeah.
Mind? Oh, man.
Yeah.
He was the last one I fought, wasn't he?
Because you were like, I'm listening to Keith Ferguson, and I'm fighting Keith Ferguson at the same time.
Okay. Oh, that's true. Keith Ferguson is always coming for me, and I'm kind of okay with that. So Emily's, like, leaving. She's, like, straight up leaving. She's walking down the street.
She's like, this is sus. They're setting you up. Something.
Yeah, she's like looking at the comments of like everyone being like, oh, Suzu sucks. And she's like not doing anything because she's just like, yeah, Suzu told me to leave. She yelled at me. I'm still kind of like upset about just everything with all of them. And I'm gonna go. And then she thinks back on like the conversation she had with Wit back when like the little group first formed, where Wit's like, you should be like a good example to Suzu and Mori because like they need good examples in their life. They've been raised by Tasha,
and now they're living with me.
They've been raised by Tasha, abandoned by their dad, and they're living with me. Emily, you're their only hope. And I think constantly about the fact that they were partially raised by Tasha. That's insane. I think about the fact that Jason doesn't know that his like new siblings were raised by his ex.
Yeah.
That's some Talia al Ghul nonsense right there.
Yeah.
That's some Batman nonsense.
I forgot about us thinking about it that way. That's so messed up.
What, that his siblings were raised by his ex?
The fact that they were partially raised by Tasha, and the fact that they're like Jason's adopted siblings.
Yeah,
now.
no, I think about this stuff quite a bit.
Oh, it's so messed up.
Yeah, it is.
And he doesn't know.
Their little squicky family tree. Okay, so Emily is like, I gotta go back, and then she goes back just as like Nicole and I already forgot her name again. Carrie is like pulling out, like they're doing like their little parlor scene. They're like, actually, Suzu, these are your shoes covered in mud. That's why they had her take off her shoes so they could like plant tracks outside.
Yeah.
This is your backpack. Oh no, we dumped it out. My cell phone was in your backpack, and also the thing that was stolen, which this made me feel, they're like, you're a little thief, Suzu. This made me feel so bad about every single joke I've ever made about Suzu stealing stuff. I feel very bad. Which I already kind of felt bad about.
The only
jokes.
Joke we won't feel bad about is the over the garden wall one.
The over the garden wall one I
so
kind of refuse to feel bad about because it was extremely funny. And
Suzu can do whatever she wants. She's adopted.
I made that joke before she became a good guy also. So sorry, I'm still laughing at that joke. I still think it's funny. Sometimes I think about that and I want to tell it to someone, but I'm like, no one will ever understand what I'm talking about.
There's a couple layers going on.
There's multiple layers, and everyone will think I'm crazy, and it'll take too long to explain the joke that by the time I do, it won't even be funny.
Yeah.
So, Emily comes in and is like, I'm saving the day, Suzu, let's go outside, and they investigate for like 2 minutes. The girls are just like, oh my gosh, they left, but don't worry, subscribers, we'll get them next time. We'll confront them at school.
Smash that bell.
And then they rush in and they're just like, actually, these are all the reasons why you two did this, and you guys really suck. And then they're like, no, how could we have our plans? They were foiled. And then Emily and Suzu like leave together. And
well,
Suzu's
she's also
just
like, haha, joke's on you. I stopped the live stream, so no one saw
Oh,
your big
right,
reveal.
yeah, they stopped the live stream just as Emily and Suzu were about to do their parlor scene. And Emily's like, oh yeah, that's so crazy. You know what? I actually just started my own live stream, and I posted the link in the comments of your live stream, and now everyone's watching my live stream, and they just saw you guys all get busted. So, like, yeah.
It was a baller move.
So Emily and Suzu leave, and Suzu's like, I'm really glad I have you as a friend, Emily, and it's very sweet. And Emily's like, anyway, wait, yeah, that's what happened. I feel really bad because I almost ditched Suzu, and that's probably, like, why you wanted to talk to me. And it's like, actually, I wanted to talk to you because, like, I didn't even know about any of that negative stuff you said. All I know is Suzu
With
came...
standing there like the meme of the person in the drive-thru at McDonald's.
With standing there, and he's just like, I wanted to thank you because Suzu came home last night and she had this moment where she told me, like, she was really thankful to have you as a friend and be in her life. And I was just like, oh, Suzu, she's so sweet. And also there was this moment where when she originally snapped at Emily and was like, I don't have any friends, like even Maury has friends now, and I was like, oh, burn on Maury, I guess, the way you said that.
But I was also like, yeah, Maury's friends, and thinking about the computer episode, and I was like, aw, he's friends with Trey.
Maury does have friends.
He's friends with Trey and the other randos.
And then she's like, I am not a robot. I feel emotions. And I was just like, oh my gosh, Suzu. And then the Marina
like the
and the
taco
Diamond
scene
song
in Pedals
started
to the Metal.
like playing in my head, like, you are not a robot. And I got really distracted.
It's like Taco and Pedals to the Metal.
Yeah. So, yeah, good episode. I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
I like seeing the progression between.
And then Emily
Emily's
is like, okay,
I'll
actually forgive you, Wit, for reals, and accept your apology, instead of the top of the episode where it was like, I guess. Yeah,
I like the trend we have lately of like every album. It feels like we get like one episode developing the whole storyline with these guys. And that leads into the next album, which looks like it's going to be like completely about this group.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
So yeah, Emily, she goes so hard on Wit at the beginning. Like she really, not just like, I'm angry at you and stuff, like she really talks through the reasoning and why it was so bad, and like performs the emotional labor of being like, this is what you did wrong and why it was wrong. Which was so insanely cathartic for me. Like, yes, tell him to his face that you cannot trust him. Blow up his spot. It felt so good. I'm so glad she expressed those things. She didn't just say like how she felt, but why she felt it and the depth of those
it's
feelings.
not like she was being mean or anything.
No.
It was like very blatantly stated.
She captured the depth and intensity of those feelings exactly to the amount that I wanted her to, which I did not think the show would do. Like, she's like, I understand that there are times when you need to let someone handle things and you know that they can, but I am a child, and Matthew is still a child, and I thought I was going to die, and I thought that Matthew was going to die. And like, her voice is like, she's on the verge of crying, and it's so intense, and she's like, and the way she emphasizes die, like.
And shout out to her voice actress. She did such a good job.
This is not like, oh, we thought we were trapped in here, we're scared. Like, I thought we were both going to die in there, and you knew the entire time, and you just stood and let it happen, and that's unconscionable. And she she said it exactly the way that I would have, and so like I was blown away that they did it exactly, they did it right. I was so happy. Like, it's horrific and inexcusable behavior what Wit did. It was so good, and like, because for all of the things that Maury and Suzu did, they are kids. Wit is an old man who should know.
But you're so old.
You're so old. You should know so much better.
I quote that probably more than any other line from any other Disney movie, because it's funny to me every single time. I remember especially when the new Indiana Jones movie came out and everyone's like, Harrison Ford back in the role. I was like, but he's so old.
So Suzu and Emily go to Carrie's house, and obviously it didn't turn out this way, but at first I was like, Carrie is immediately giving off like extremely lesbian vibes for Suzu, because she opens the door and she's like, Suzu, oh, I wasn't expecting Emily to show up, because I was...
Okay, yeah, I was trying not to say it. There was definitely some vibe between Suzu and Carrie.
She was like, oh, I was just asking Suzu to hang out, winky face, and now Emily is also here, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry that my mom has this thing about shoes, and Carrie does, and Suzu's like, yeah, like a normal person, and then Carrie's like, here, I baked these cookies just for you, I slaved over them, so if you come over here, come up to my room, and stuff like this, and I was like, she has a crush on Suzu so bad, and Suzu's flustered back, and she may have been purposefully putting out that energy, I don't know.
It was purposeful.
And then Nicole shows up, she bursts out of the closet, basically. And she's like, hey, I'm also here, by the way. I like
how she doesn't even, like, come in, like, hi guys, she just walks into the like she doesn't even like she's just in the room and she just carries on in the conversation, and then Emily and Susie were like, where did you come from?
It really felt like she just like rose up from under the bed sheets, Vincent Valentine style, like, and I've been here the whole time.
It was very like, what's the guy's name? Is it the guy who jumped the shark? Who did that?
Henry Winkler?
No, like the character.
The Fonz?
Yeah, wasn't it the Fonz who like always just spawned into a room?
Did he? I don't know that.
Because
I don't know that trait about him.
He had like a motorcycle outfit.
Yes.
And he had a motorcycle.
Yes.
But they didn't want to show him riding the motorcycle.
Oh, yeah.
Because they thought it was irresponsible. So anytime he entered a scene, he was just in the scene.
I forgot about that.
And also, they do that with whoever the guy is who played the original Nutty Professor.
I don't remember.
When he's like his cool persona,
mm-hmm.
whenever he's in a scene, he's just like the camera pans over and he's just like in the room already.
It's like reverse Batman.
He's just like, I'm so cool, I was already in the room and I'm just vibing here the whole time.
Yeah.
I have
Samurai
to look at that
style.
actor's name. It's gonna bother me.
Yeah, so she just shows up. She's like, don't worry, I'm just creating my own detective friend fiction about you guys to get my rocks off.
Jerry Lewis.
Because I love detective books so much. And Emily like pauses Cusco style to be like, she's such a poser with her cliche detective stories. She
pauses the story and circles her in like red marker, and she's just like, I don't trust you.
Yeah, so Carrie sets up the whole thing, and then Emily's like, something's weird, and Susie's like, you're just jealous, and I want to have friends, and you won't be my friend, and no one will be my friend, and I'm so alone. And Emily's like, I had no idea. And I'm like, you're a good detective, Emily. And so she leaves, and then she puts it together. She sees the live stream, and Carrie's all like, what's up, fam? We're getting it. It's happening. 20 does. The prank is coming together. And then Emily's like, I'm just going to keep walking. Which is rough.
Yeah.
It is rough.
Emily, I'm going to say something very controversial. Emily is like almost equal parts. Well, not almost equal parts. I'd say like definitely more one than the other, but like a very bad friend, but also like a very good friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, she has, like, so many moments of just being like, you're a very bad friend to these people. Like, including Matthew. Like, that's kind of why their friendship, like, fractured so many times.
Yeah, and I mean...
But, like, she, like, at the end of the day, she's always, like, a very good friend and a good person, and I love her a lot. But she, like, as a friend, is so much more flawed than so many other characters you would see, like, in media.
I think, you know, obviously, like, in the first 2 or 3 albums of, like, post 50, Emily got way more criticism than any other character, and I do think misogyny played into some of it.
Yeah, I think that wasn't fair how much criticism she got.
She got a lot of hate, but definitely, like, she had a very, like, toxic, controlling thing when it came to, like, Matthew, in terms of, like, like, when it came to, like, Square One and stuff like that, where she was like, I can't let him do any other thing or have any other friends without inserting myself into it. So, I mean, she's not as bad as the way that everyone, like, hyper-obsessed on it when she first appeared. But it is definitely, like, an aspect of her personality, like, the way that she builds relationships with others is fraught with issues from what we've seen over time. So, you know, it definitely, like you said, over time with Matthew, it impacted things, and working on the stuff with Maury and Suzu. So she does go, and then she decides to come back. She does her big thing. Very smart of her to, you know, to do the whole live stream thing and put it in the comments. Because, you know, if she puts it in the comments, like, there's this risk that Carrie and Nicole see the link and they realize they've been caught. But if she didn't do that, then no one would have seen the live stream. And even if she caught it, like, on video, and it's like, I have it recorded and I can show everyone, it's like, that's good, but like, you don't need to prove to Carrie and Nicole that they were faking it. You need to prove to the rest of the school who just saw this live stream, and the time that it'll take the next day to, like, start passing this link around of the video that you took is gonna take a while. And in the meantime, like, Suzu's gonna have it rough. And so Emily pulled, like, a fantastic move there, and having that set up in advance with, like, the real stream. Here's my one secret that Carrie doesn't want you to know, and she hates me for it. In my banner
Even if
ad.
Emily, like, did wait and then in retrospect, like, passed it out the link, there'd be so many people who are like, I'm not even going to watch that.
Exactly. Like, people aren't going to take the time after the fact to be like, oh, they're just going to be like, oh yeah, I heard Suzu did this thing. So she did absolutely the smart thing, and it was very fortunate that, you know, Carrie and Nicole were engaged in what's happening, so they're not, like, checking the comments as they're going. Emily, like, apologizes. She's like, sorry, I started my own live stream, but it's like, you do not need to apologize for that. Like, it was very smart, and no one would have seen it live otherwise, and the proof would circulate eventually, but not everyone would see it, and it would take time, and it would have been, like, social suicide for Suzu beforehand. Or not suicide, just murder, social murder, I guess, because it's being done by another person in the meantime. And then yeah, Wit's like, I didn't know any of that. I just knew that, like, you had a nice night with Suzu, because Suzu came back, and I was like, how's your night? And she was like, it was really good. Which also, I think, it says a lot about Suzu's, like, her optimism. It also says how incredibly desperate she is, that she's like, these are my circumstances.
Her bar is very low.
But her bar is very low. Also, I feel like very emotionally repressed, that instead of telling Wit about anything that happened in the course of that night, she was just like, it was really good, and didn't say anything else. And I'm like, girl, you need to communicate probably with people more about the things that happen to you and how you're feeling. You need some friends, Suzu. She was also
raised by Tasha and her absentee father.
Touche.
I think it kind of sucks that, like, Suzu had friends in Emily, and basically, not quite Emily, but, like, Matthew, but it was all fake. So it was like, oh, this is a facade of, like, what friendship looks like. And then, like, but in reality, I have no friends. To flat out, I have no friends. To, man, I want to make friends. To, oh, hey, I get to be friends with Emily now.
She got the taste of it in the fakeness, and she's like, now I got the free hit, and now I got the craving
for friendship.
It's like Kate Sith. She's like, no, I knew this would happen. I knew one day this would have to happen, but now I need it to be real.
I need friendship. So, yeah, I guess I'll rate first. I think I've been getting you to rate first a lot, it feels like. I thought this episode was really good with, like, the Wit Emily content. I think that was the best thing for me about this episode, because, again, we've been waiting for it. We didn't think it was going to happen, so it was a very pleasant surprise. I don't know. There's, like, this, which was intentional, like, the weird fakiness of just like, oh, guys, viewers, this is what's happening, which, like, intentional.
You nailed it exactly, where it's that, like, middle schoolers, like, family YouTube channel TikTok kind of, like,
sensationalized
content. Yeah,
like,
exactly. Clickbaity, engagement driven.
I get that that's a thing, but also, like, oh, hate that, because I know it's real. Like, hate that, hate to think about it. Plus, like, the Mean Girls vibe, which, like, oh, that sucks. I think I'm gonna give this one a 4.
I did also wonder when they're like, oh, you got your, like, criminal sidekick. I'm like, how do they know about that?
I feel like rumors spread.
Yeah, I'm like, thinking about it. I'm like, surely some of the things that they did that involved stealing and stuff like that, like, would have made their way.
Also, Maury and Suzu and Emily did all end up in detention. a couple times. So, like, that would have spread.
I guess, but that doesn't... I mean, I don't think anyone knows about, like, the
I don't think anyone knows fully what happened, but it'd be
no, but I mean,
Maury,
even, like, any
like,
of
Emily's
the
usually
larger,
pretty chill,
like,
all things
isolated
considered.
incidents.
People would be like, Emily's pretty chill, all things considered. She's, like, really upset with Maury and Suzu. I wonder why. Let's, like, try and figure out, like, and gossip about it, and then...
Whoa, yeah. They trapped a Chinese spy inside a psychological torture brain chamber. That's crazy.
That's not very poggers. Whoa!
Where they made her think that she was drowning alive inside her own head.
Yeah. You know, after school shenanigans for Odyssey. Typical Odyssey.
Yeah.
After school shenanigans. I think I'm gonna give this one a 4. I think it was really solid. I like to see Suzu finally get, like, a friend who will stand up for her. I'm excited to see more of the friendship progression between Emily and Suzu as things go on, and Emily grow closer to, like, everyone else in the group. I don't think we could consider Emily and Maury friends at this point at all.
No, they're coworkers.
They're like coworkers is the best way to put it, yeah. So I'm excited to see, like, that friendship progression. And Cooper's the other person in the group, right? Yeah. Cooper and Emily are also just kind of give me a coworkers vibe, where it's just like, yeah, we're just like, we're chill with each other. So, like, excited to see them become, like, genuine friends.
It is funny that Cooper is theoretically in this group.
He's there to be, like, the everyday, like...
He's like the Shaggy.
He is the Shaggy of the group.
This mystery group.
He's the Shaggy where it's just, like, he has, like, this really specific skill set, and, like, he's really lovable, and he's just, like, the chill guy of the group who, like, everyone will get along with and kind of will be the heart of the group.
In season 1 of Free, Cooper is Ray, where everyone else has, like, this very long and specific and traumatic, like, shared history, and then Cooper's
like
there.
Like a very fraught shared history, and you're like, oh, I'm new to the group.
Where there's, like,
energy?
all of these emotions and all this stuff, and he's like, who's Tasha? What embassy? All of these things. What did you do to that poor old woman?
And Emily will casually be like, oh yeah, when, like, Maury tried to murder me, and he'll be like, I'm sorry, when you what? It's just constantly a state of Griffin McElroy Mabim Bam TV show where he's just sitting there, and it's just like, I'm very uncomfortable with the energy we've created in the room right now.
There's only been the one episode so far that's had them all in it, right? That first one where there was, like, the mystery guy, and it's like, who's this guy who hasn't shown up in...
Still don't know what that guy's deal is. Excited to find out in the next album. I really want to listen to the next album.
Yeah.
Is the next album, like, fully just, like, a multi-parter?
No, it's a 3-parter and then one, and it's half about
that. Okay, so, like, 3 1-part episodes, 1 3-part episode.
It's a 3 and a 1 and a 2.
Oh.
But it's the 3-parter that is, like, right, based on the title, is the 3-parter that is, like, Maury and Suzu centric.
Okay. I'm really hoping for more. This is completely unrelated to anything. I really want more Jason and Jillian content. I saw an OAC picture thumbnail, and for a second I thought a character was Jason talking to Jillian in the picture, and then I think I realized it was actually just probably Jason talking to Emily, and I was like, man, I miss Jillian and Jason interacting.
We'll get them in there. And,
we'll get them
Professor
one day.
Burke too.
Okay, what are your rating thoughts?
I'm gonna give this episode...
Oh, sorry, one more thing I forgot to say. This episode had very classic Odyssey feel to me. I don't know about you. It felt like something that would have happened in, like, the golden albums.
Technology notwithstanding, yeah. That's the other thing I was thinking of while you were...
Like, this is, like, our little friendship issues. This is why, like, I'm upset about this. It felt like very, like, moral based. It felt like you can see like the theming and the moral like in almost everything that happens, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It just felt like, yeah, it felt like something that would have been made by Odyssey like decades ago.
When we were talking about like the Emily started a competing live stream and posted in the comments, and obviously that we could say this about so many episodes these days, but one of the things that's wild to me about this show is like the transformation of technology over the course of its lifespan. And you go back to like very early episodes at the beginning where it's like, whoa, do you see this? I got a tape cassette recorder. This is crazy.
Oh, I've been weeding at work and found in the kids.
This is radical.
In the kids CD section, a cassette. I was like, I thought your kind was banished long ago. I don't know how it was there. I deleted it, but I thought it was very funny.
When are we gonna get an episode that focuses on like the talking mirror in the Bible room that's definitely still around?
I think people use the
has it
talking
connected
mirror.
to Chat GPT now?
I think people use the talking mirror for like TikToks now.
Yeah. Which like,
Make,
look at
really
this.
crazy TikToks.
I have a mirror and you can talk to it and it will hear your voice and respond to you. And they're like, wow, that's so crazy. Hey, Alexa, do a funny TikTok dance. And then,
hey, Alexa, roast this talking mirror. And she's like, got it.
No, Alexa's in the talking mirror. And you're like, do this. And then the talking mirror shows
Can it only like respond to things in Bible verses?
Yeah, but it responds and it's like the dancing hot dog from Snapchat. And it's doing like a funny Fortnite dance and making Jericho fall.
That sentence you just said to me was a lot to take in.
Anyways, I'm going to give this episode like a 4.8 out of 5. It was very good. Like I said, the way that Emily communicated her feelings and her trauma to Whit is with a depth and succinctness that was far beyond my expectations of what the show was actually going to do. It was to the level that I actually wanted it to happen, which was a very high bar. I was very angry at Whit for what he did when in the Rydell Revelations, when he revealed that he knew the whole time. She expressed that all so well. The fact that they let Emily be angry enough that she would like started to leave, that she put it together, she realized what was happening, and she was like, I'm gonna let her hang out to dry, and then change her mind. Yeah. I'm gonna let her hang out to dry, and then decides to change her mind. She comes back, she does the whole thing. She has this extremely sick, like, you know, her like D&D single turn, like one hit kill move of being like, I started my own live stream, which was cool, and she had the forethought and set that all up and like executed it perfectly. And then just this very sweet, you know, Suzu being emotionally vulnerable and you know, finally like expressing that properly, and then having this sweet moment and expressing that to Whit instead of tattling on Emily about the bad part that she did. It's good. Abigail Geiger, killing it.
Okay,
what are we talking about next time?
Eugene. What do you do when Eugene's gone? Wait for him to come back.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So
feels bad, feels inorganic.
What's gonna happen with Eugene's character now that Will Ryan's gone? With the Eugene multi-parter. We're gonna talk about the first 2 parts of what's The Best Is Yet to Come? That's what it was called? Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that until next time. Then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. I've been Dem Francis, also known as Dr. Blacker.
And I guess you could say the best is yet to come. Ah!
I thought you were going to say, like, I've been here the whole time or something. Make
no,
cool Nicole reference.
No. Bye.